Bon, alors nous allons discuter le conditionnel passé et aussi C clauses. OK, et vous voyez les pages dans votre livre personnage. La dernière leçon, c'était le futur intérieur et n'oubliez pas que le futur intérieur, c'est un temps composé et le verbe auxiliaire, c'est au futur. Alors aujourd'hui, le verbe auxiliaire, c'est au conditionnel, alors c'est le conditionnel passé. Bon, ok, conditionnel passé, en anglais, ça correspond à conditional past. Conditional past, I think is what we would call it in English. And it will translate to would, have, and then whatever the past participle is. Most past participles end with ed. They don't all end with ed. For example, I would have walked. If I had run out of gas, I would have walked to the gas station. I would have walked to your house. So the conditional means would. I would go. The conditional past, I would have gone. Can you hear the past in that? Okay, would have. All right, as far as its formation, la formation, c'est très facile. Ok, vous avez avoir ou être dans le conditionnel. Conditionnel plus le participe passé. Okay? So just like the passé composé, just like the futur intérieur, it's all a matter of what tense you conjugate your helping verb. So I hope you're seeing how valuable the passé composé is. If you don't know the passé composé, you can't do all these other tenses. Or put it in a better way, if you do know the passé composé, look at all the new tenses you can do with just manipulating that one word. All right, so an example of what it would look like is the verb faire. Okay, faire, as we know, is an avoir verb. The past participle doesn't change. It's just the helping verb that changes. And notice I have the conditional. So j'aurais fait, I would have done. Tu aurais fait, you would have done. Il aurait fait, he would have done. Nous aurions fait, vous auriez fait, ils auraient fait. So that's with the avoir verb. If we were to switch it to an être, an être verb like sortir, I would have gone out. Je serais sorti. Voilà. A reflexive verb, se dépêcher, I would have hurried. Or I'll switch my subject to maybe tu, you would have hurried. Tu te serais dépêché. So these tenses are kind of long. A lot of letters involved in writing the conditional past, but you just have to get used to seeing what this looks like, because it looks a little strange at first. Ok, voilà, donc ça c'est la formation du conditionnel passé. Bon. We're going to try a couple of examples now. We didn't really have a chance to practice a lot in the last video, so we're going to practice now using the conditional past and the futur antérieur, our two new tenses. So if I were to write down the verb venir with the subject elle, can you write that in the futur antérieur and then in the conditionnel passé? And again, I'll give you time to pause. So press pause and write it out, and then we'll do it together. Okay, so together it would be elle. Now venir is an être verb, so we need être, sera, venu. And since it's an être verb, we have to have agreement. She will have come. Conditional past, elle serait venue. She would have come. So those are examples of our two new verbs, verb tenses. Voilà, bon. Okay, so that's how you do the conditional past. How are you going to use the conditional past? Well, this is where we have to go back to our C clauses. In 2 videos ago, we talked about our C clauses. And C clauses, as you know, are if statements. And just to review a little bit from 2 videos ago, we said that there are many different options with C clauses. So one option is when you have, with si, you can have the présent, présent. Something like if, meaning whenever. Whenever I go to the beach, I bring a beach ball. Every time I go. Present, present. Then another option with si was the présent futur. If I go to the beach next weekend, I will bring my beach ball. Another option was the impératif. If I can fit that on there, don't think I can. If I go to the beach next weekend, or if we go to the beach next weekend, bring the beach ball, making a command. Okay, so present, présent futur, présent impératif. Okay, then we said already in our notes that sometimes we're going to have the imparfait and the conditionnel, and I don't have room to write both on the same line. If I went to the beach, I would bring my beach ball. If I had $1,000, I would buy a pack of gum. Okay, so imparfait conditionnel, and this is clearly a hypothetical situation. This is the if I were a rich man kind of thing. Okay, so this is prior notes. We've already had this. Now let's find out about the last use of si. So we've got one use of si, 2, 3, 4. This is our 5th use of si. D'accord? And it's going to be basically the past of this. Instead of saying if I had $1,000, I would buy a pack of gum, the past of that would be if I had had $1,000, I would have bought a pack of gum. If I knew the answer, I would tell you. If I had known the answer, I would have told you. Can you hear how that's the past? It's the past of each of these. So instead of saying if I knew the answer, you're going to say if I had known the answer. Now what does that sound like? Had known. That's the plus que parfait, the past of the past. Had known. So plus que parfait. Is going to be one part of the sentence. If I had known the answer, I would have told you. Would have told. That's the past conditional. So conditionnel, passé. So we're not going to use the conditional passé very often on its own, just in a sentence by itself, but we're frequently going to use it in a si clause, and that's why we need to know it, because it's going to come up in the si clause a lot. All right? So let's take a look at an example of a whole si clause using those two tenses. All right, so an example of our new si clause would be something like this. If you had gone to the party, I would have talked to you. Now this is one sentence. It's a long sentence, but it's just one sentence. All right, so we have a si clause, right? Si. And we have two verbs. Had gone is one verb. Would have talked is a second verb. Now, unlike the future keywords like quand, lorsque, dès que, and après que, and all those, remember that the si clauses work exactly like English. So if you truly understand how to translate these tenses, you'll have no problem choosing the right tense in French. They're just like English, okay? So had gone, that's plus que parfait. So remember, plus que parfait is the imparfait, right here. Plus que parfait is the imparfait of the avoir-être plus the past participle. So gone, that's to go, that's an être verb, so I need the imparfait of être. Si tu étais allé à la fête. Okay, so that's plus que parfait. I would have talked. That's conditional past. The verb to talk is parler. That's an avoir verb. So je, and then we need avoir in the conditional. So aurait, AIS, if you can't see that very well. And then the past participle, parler. And then to you is going to go right here before the verb, just because that's a pronoun and it always goes before the verb. So voilà, si tu es allé à la fête, je t'aurais parlé. Voilà, d'accord? So these are very sophisticated sentences. Using these C clauses really bump you up to definitely a level 4 style of writing, level of discourse, and that's where we want to be. We want to be sophisticated in our writing. Voilà. So the big thing with C clauses is just recognizing the verb and knowing the tense. So if you were to have si je parle français, let me change it to tu, that's going to make more sense. Si tu parles français, contente. Okay, so your chore, your first task with all these C clauses and exercise and stuff like that is going to be, what tense do you need here? So you have to identify this is the present tense. That's present. So you look back in your chart and you say, well, when you have present here, you have 3 options. You either can use present, you can use future, or you can use the imperatif. Well, clearly it's not the imperatif because we have a subject here. So it's either the present or the future. And what would make sense? If you speak French, I am happy. That makes sense. And if you speak French, I will be happy. They both make sense. In this particular example, both of these make sense. Je suis content or je serai contente. Okay? You might have a sentence where you have si j'avais de l'argent, and the verb is emprunter, prêter, to lend, de l'argent. If I had money, I would lend you money. All right, so here's the verb, and we have to think, what tense is that? That's the imparfait. And a real quick way for me to know if I have the conditional or the imparfait is looking for the R. Remember, the R is the key letter for the future and for the conditional, since they both share the same stem. So if I don't have the R, I know I don't have one of these tenses. So it's the imparfait. Okay, so that's the imparfait. And then I look back to my notes and I think, okay, when do I use si plus the imparfait? What's this other verb tense going to be? And my notes tell me that it should be the conditional, right? So I need prêter, that's supposed to be an R, in the conditional. So je te prête, infinitive, and the ending. If I had money, I would lend you money. All right, so when you're choosing if you have an exercise where you have to fill in the blank, you really have to look at the first verb or the verb that's given to you and really think about what tense that is. So one of your first things to do with learning all these tenses is just learning to recognize. Getting really good at when you see a verb, you can recognize the tense. Sera, what tense is that? That'd be future. Aurait fait, what tense is that? Conditional past, because here's my conditional. I have R plus an imparfait ending, that's conditional, and then there's the past. Okay, how about serait allé? Also conditional past. It's just natural verb instead of an avoir verb. How about avion by itself? Imparfait. Okay, so you want to get good at this, identifying real quickly the tense of the verb, not just what verb it is, but also the tense. D'accord? Alors, à tout à l'heure.